Chapter 45. Gates of Stone and Shadow. The gates of the abyss showed no intention of opening. They rose before them like an ancient oath, two colossal slabs of blackened metal set into the mountain itself, covered in runes so eroded that no one in Tharzul remembered their full meaning. They did not gleam. They did not warn of danger. They were simply inevitable. Alden stood before the gates, his back straight, the weight of his new equipment settling slowly against his body. The Durkan's steel breastplate reflected the torchlight with a restrained sheen, without ostentation. It did not appear forged to impress, but to endure. The bracers fitted his forearms like natural extensions of his movement. When he breathed, he felt the cold metal against his chest, firm, present. It did not discomfort him. On the contrary, it lent him a strange sense of stability, as though the dwarven forge had known precisely what he required. At his side, Luthera watched in silence. The wolf stood tall, ears alert, body tense, as if something beyond the gates demanded her attention. The amber gleam of her eyes contrasted with the darkness, seeping through the seams of the metal. Alden knew that, though he could neither see nor hear it, she was already sensing what waited on the other side. Kel checked once more the fit of the small round shield hanging from his left arm. He did not yet raise it, yet its presence felt strangely reassuring. Doran inspected the edge of his axe with precise movements, Grumar's weapon now an extension of his will. Sarah wore the new quiver across her back. Durkan tipped arrows aligned with care. Lyanna stood a few paces behind, beside Selenia, hands clasped, her face more composed than Alden had expected. King Duran stepped forward. His broad figure, solid as a mountain pillar, stood against the gates. He rested both hands upon the haft of his heavy hammer and allowed the silence to settle before speaking. There was no affected solemnity in his posture, only the gravity of one who knew too well the burden of history. "We do not know how vast the abyss is," he said at last, his voice deep, "nor how long it will take you to cross it." His words echoed through the stone chamber with muted resonance, as though the place itself resisted amplifying them. The only dwarf who ever crossed it and returned was the ancient king Durvak, and when he came back, he left no maps, no clear warnings, nothing but silence. Duran lifted his gaze toward the worn runes. He forbade entry, sealed these gates, and when he chose to open them again, it was only to enter himself. This time, never to return. No one interrupted. "The only certainty we possess," he continued, "is that the first reaches of the abyss are infested with creatures born of shadow and darkness. They will not wait. They will not hesitate. They will strike at once." His eyes moved across the group. "From the moment you cross that threshold, you must be ready to fight." Bourne stepped forward then, pushing a small wooden cart. Upon it rested several translucent crystals, each the size of a closed fist, emitting a soft, steady glow. "Elven crystals," he said, "costly, hard to obtain, but they will give you light where no torch could survive." Sarah approached and took them carefully, inclining her head in quiet thanks. "We will distribute them," she said. "Thank you, Boren." The dwarf nodded and then indicated several bundles wrapped in thick cloth. "Special preserves, dwarven rations, properly sealed, enough to sustain you for at least a month." Kel and Dorn took charge of them without unnecessary comment. Lyanna then turned toward Selenia. For a moment, the noise of the place seemed to fade. The young woman stepped forward and spoke softly. "Ether should not descend with us." Selenia regarded her closely as though she had expected those words. "The depths are no place for a bird," Lyanna continued, "not even for him." The kite perched upon Selenia's arm tilted his head as if he understood. His golden eyes shone with restrained intelligence. "I will care for him," Selenia replied, "and I will wait for you." Lyanna hesitated only a second before embracing her. It was not ceremonial. No solemn words were spoken. It was the embrace of a mother sending her daughter down an uncertain path. Selenia rested a hand against Lyanna's back, firm, as though seeking to pass on all the strength that could not follow her. "Return," she murmured. Lyanna nodded as they parted, her eyes bright but unshed tears held in check. Alden bid farewell to Coram and Grumar next. The old smith grunted something unintelligible and clapped him on the shoulder. Grumar offered the faintest smile when Alden asked if he was certain he would not join them. "My duty is to guard the king, our reader," he replied. "And this ill-tempered smith." Karim snorted. King Durin intervened. "I considered it," he said, and Born made a suggestion I found fitting. Footsteps echoed along the stair descending from the upper levels. Kyle frowned before he even saw who approached. Dren appeared with easy stride, hands resting at his belt, a crooked smile upon his face. "I hope I am not late." "What is he doing here?" Kale demanded bluntly. "He was recommended," Durin answered calmly. Born spoke well of him, said he is skilled, and that his price is worth every coin. Dren inclined his head with exaggerated courtesy and glanced toward Lyanna. "The king offered me a sum for which I would march to the very castle of Galithor himself." Lyanna smiled, restrained. Alden watched the exchange closely, a faint but unmistakable tension forming within him. "Very well," Alden said at last, stepping forward. "It is time." Durin took his hammer and fitted it into a carved recess at the base of an ancient statue, depicting a dwarven king of forgotten ages. The metal vibrated. A deep sound traveled through the mountain. The gates of the abyss began to open, slowly. A cold breath emerged from within, heavy with moisture, ancient earth, and something more. Something that did not belong to the world above. The group advanced. Alden crossed first, Luthera at his side. Kyle, Lyanna, Doran, Sarah, and Dren followed, without looking back. The gates closed behind them. Miles away, Raylam reined in his horse. The army gradually stilled behind him, like a restrained tide. The sound of hooves, armor, and voices faded until only the steady whistle of mountain wind remained. Before them rose the gates of Khara-Dûm. Even at a distance, they commanded respect. Carved from the rock itself, massive, ancient, reliefs worn by time, but not entirely erased. At their base, the outer settlement spread like an irregular patchwork of low rooftops, workshops, and storehouses, partly carved into stone. It was no fortified city. It was a place of passage. Merchants, artisans, travelers, people who trusted that the shadow of the gates was protection enough. Raylam studied them for a long moment, his expression unreadable. "It is time to test their defenses," he said at last, without raising his voice. Riven beside him tightened his jaw. "The orders were to observe," he replied. "Apply pressure, evaluate." Raylam turned his head slightly toward him. He smiled, a faint curve of the lips, devoid of humor. "That is precisely what I intend to do." Before Riven could add anything, Raylam lifted his hand and gestured toward the settlement. "Two companies, advance." The troops moved. The attack was not glorious. It did not need to be. The first screams rose as soldiers surged between the houses. Doors forced open, tables overturned, goods scattered across stone floors. The inhabitants reacted too late, with the bewilderment of those who had never expected war to knock upon their doors. Dwarves and humans fled in opposite directions, carrying what they could, pushing children ahead, dragging the elderly. There was no formation, no organized resistance, only panic. Riven watched with a furrowed brow. They were not warriors, they were not soldiers. They were merchants, smiths, carriers, people whose only defense had ever been distance and the name of Khara-Dûm. The assault continued without difficulty. The companies advanced until they stood before the gates. And then, the mountain answered. A tremor ran through the ground, first faint, like a distant echo, then stronger. The stone slabs vibrated beneath the soldiers' boots. The stone figures flanking the gates, long intended only to guard the entrance, moved in its defense. The guardians awakened. The grinding of shifting rock resounded like contained thunder. The stone giants rose with implacable slowness, dust and fragments breaking from their colossal forms. They did not roar. They did not shout. They simply advanced. The first blow crushed 3 men in a single motion. Swords rebounded from stone without leaving a mark. Spears splintered. Arrows shattered on impact. Soldiers stumbled backward, shouting futile commands, colliding with one another. The guardians showed no haste. Each step was final. Each strike, lethal. Within minutes, the two companies ceased to exist as an organized force. When the last body fell, the giants returned to their original positions. Dust settled. Silence resumed its place, as though nothing had occurred. Rollum watched with genuine interest, inclining his head slightly. "Interesting," he murmured. Riven did not answer, but his fingers tightened around the reins. Within the abyss, the light of the elven crystals flared like a handful of captive stars. The glow was not strong, but constant, enough to tear fragments of shape from the darkness, to reveal walls of damp stone rising beyond sight. Each of them secured their crystal to clothing or gear. Even Luthera received hers, carefully braided by Sarah around her neck like an improvised collar. The wolf shook her head once, uncomfortable, but did not attempt to remove it. Before them opened an immense cavern, not a tunnel, not a passage, a void of stone. The ground sloped gently downward, uneven, fractured, scattered with rock formations casting distorted shadows. The ceiling rose so high it vanished into blackness. The air was cold and heavy, laden with moisture and an ancient earthen scent edged with metal. The silence was not complete, distant dripping, currents of air sliding between stone, echoes that did not always seem to answer their own movements. Each step sounded louder than it should. Each breath seemed amplified. Alden felt a tightening in his stomach, not from immediate fear, but from the unmistakable sense that he had crossed a boundary from which there would be no swift return. Down there, time itself grew uncertain. The world above receded with every measured step. Luthera growled low. She did not look ahead. She looked to the sides, upward, toward corners the light could not reach. Alden saw nothing there, but he felt it. A steady, subtle pressure, as though the cavern itself were measuring them, weighing their number, their size, their fragility. They were not alone. Perhaps they had never been, not from the moment they crossed the gates. The abyss did not attack. Not yet, but it had received them, and in some way that was worse.